Good to be here tonight. Good to see you. Good to see, very good to see Miss Vivian able to be with us. And what a joy to have her. And it's good to have each and every one of you. People started calling today, and I started not to come myself. I had so many people calling saying we can't be there, we're sick. And so I thought, wow, this is going to be good. So I'm glad you came. But if you had to come, I'd had to preach just to my wife and my mother-in-law. And I would have had to change the sermon, all right? So, not really. Just glad you're here. Do remember to pray for those. I have been in contact with both of our missionaries out of our church this week. Picked up today, I went and got Brother Drew a driver's license, an international driver's license. I didn't know anything about this, but you can get them at AAA, so I went and picked that up. Now I've just got to get it shipped to him, and so hopefully that'll work out real well. You just got, he texted me the address I need to send it to, and I'm looking at it here on the text, and I have no idea what goes on what line. You know what I mean? And where does one line end and the next line start, So I wonder how it'd be if I just wrote it all the way across the envelope, and let them figure it out. But man, it is just terrible. But anyhow, then today I talked to Brother Whitaker, and he's looking for a place to move their church to. By the way, pray for them. They're planning for a big day this Sunday, and they've rented a special place. It's got more room because they don't even have elbow room where they're meeting right now when folks are there. But so pray for them. They'll have a great day, and but they're looking for another building to maybe move to, and they've got a couple of. We were talking about one option that really sounded pretty good, and we've been praying about that, talking about that. And when today I talked to him, he said that one doesn't look too good anymore. But there's another one offered that the possibility of, and he didn't seek this out. There is a Jewish synagogue that's there in Pocatello, and this fellow, the leader there, I'm not sure if he's a rabbi or not, but he got in touch. He came to look into Brother Whitaker to see if possibly they might want to share their building, and the figure that he mentioned for rent would be really, really good if all the details would work out, because it would allow them to save up some money maybe for a couple of years. And we talked in this phone call. There's a couple of churches there that are just really declining, but they've got nice buildings. And so I said, well, maybe if one of them folds up over that time, you'd have enough money built up for a down payment. Things will change. That could really be good. So just pray that God will give him wisdom, and they'll, he said, I attended their service last night at Yom Kippur, and so he said they were having a special service, and he said I went to that, and he said they just have a real small number, but he said it's the only Jewish gathering in that part of Idaho. So if just pray about that. Maybe that might be what the Lord would want, and it would allow them to have probably about twice as much seating capacity as they do now, and so pray with them about that. That might be real beneficial. And continue to pray for Brother Rigo Blanco. He leads the work there in Belize City, and they're kind of going through a difficult time, so pray for them, all right? Pray for them. They need that prayer, and I hope you will pray for them, all right? Hope you will. All right, you surely have had time to find Proverbs 28, right? Look at verse 3, all right? Verse 3. The Bible says, a poor man that oppresseth the poor is like a sweeping rain, which leaveth no food. Last week, I spoke to you, we looked at the rich man, all right? And we looked at him, and tonight, we look at his opposite. We're looking at the poor man, all right? Everyone wants to be rich, it seems like. But on the other hand, it seems like more of us think of ourselves as poor rather than rich. If you were to put yourself on the economic scale, most of us probably wouldn't check the rich column, right? We might be on the other end of it, but the truth of the matter is, thank God for middle class, right? So what a good thing that is. But we've, over the years here in the United States, we've just had a multitude of programs and all kinds of versions of poverty programs with an idea and a goal: we're going to eradicate poverty completely. And our government says they're extremely concerned about the poor, and seems like every politician has a plan to help the poor. And but I don't know if you've noticed, but I've noticed all those plans, programs, they don't seem to be working, right? They don't seem to be doing anything. Matter of fact, we listen to the news media and they say there's more people under the poverty level than there used to be, and all of that. But now, don't get mad at me, all right, before we get through with the message. Jesus Christ told us nearly 2,000 years ago, you have the poor with you always. You have the poor with you always. Look, it may be a noble sounding idea, but we're never going to eradicate and get it where there's nobody that's poor anymore. All right? Now, the communists do the best job at that. So, preacher, what do you mean? Well, they make everybody poor. So, everybody's on the same level. So, but you just can't get rid of that, all right? You just can't do it. No matter how hard you try, no matter how hard you work at it, we're not going to be able to do that, all right? But we can learn something, all right? We can learn something. And I do believe this. I believe you don't have to be poor. Now, that doesn't mean I'm not fixing to preach to you health and wealth, all right? I'm not fixing to preach to you and say, well, you don't have to be poor, you can be wealthy. I don't believe that either, all right? But we'll just look at what the Bible says tonight about the poor man. And first of all, I want to look at making a poor man, all right? Making a poor man. You said, that was easy, I got married. Hey, not really, okay? There's a lot of ways. There's a lot of ways to make a fortune. A lot of ways. I've heard people make fortunes in a lot of things. There's a lot of ways to make a poor man. A lot of things. According to the Bible said there's 8 ways that the Bible tells us that a person can become poor, all right? And really, the truth of the matter is all of them are a matter of character. They have to do with an individual's character. And the main trait, this is one everybody's, if we were to take a poll, you'd put this one on there. Look at Proverbs chapter 6. Proverbs chapter 6. Everybody would say, man, I know that was going to be there. Well, it is, all right? It is. And it's probably the number one trait, that'll do it. But in Proverbs chapter 6, verse 9, how long wilt thou sleep, O sluggard? When wilt thou arise out of thy sleep? Yet a little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to sleep, so shall thy poverty come as one that traveleth, and thy want as an armed man. Hey, listen, the Bible refers to poverty being the result of laziness 4 times in the book of Proverbs. Hey, that's the main trait that'll make you poor, is laziness. Laziness. Now, I don't know how to emphasize this thing. I don't believe I'm standing here looking at a bunch of lazy people, all right? But I've seen some real good industrious folks raise some very lazy kids. All right? Raise some very lazy children. My wife and I, we've got a man that was very, very good to our church. Never was a member. I don't remember him ever coming. But boy, he was a friend. He was good to our church, and he and his wife adopted a son, and man, these people had done well. They qualified, as far as I'm concerned, being wealthy, all right? Now, they weren't the Bass brothers, but they were wealthy, all right? And but their son, he's managing to spend it all right? He's just lazy. Just lazy. Will not get out there and get it. Look, that's one of the easiest ways. You want to make yourself poor, just be lazy. Just be lazy. Now, wait a minute. Everybody has a day every now and then where you're lazy, okay? I understand that. I'm not castigating you for that. One day you slept a little later. That's fine. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about just being plain old-fashioned lazy. A lot of people are. Hey, you know what? They pay a price for it. They pay a price for it. The Bible says that will make you poor. Look in chapter 11. Chapter 11, if you will. There's another thing the Bible says. This will lead to poverty. This will lead to an individual being poor. Chapter 11, verse 24 of the book of Proverbs, the Bible says, there is that scattereth and yet increaseth, and there is that withholdeth more than is meet, but it tendeth to poverty. Hey, there is that withholdeth more than is meet. Hey, the Bible here is just plain new talking about being selfish and greedy. Just being selfish and greedy. Hey, I want to get all I can all I get, set on the can, right? That's what I want to do. That's my goal in life, just to have everything selfish, not going to hand it out, not going to give it out, not going to share it with anybody. I'm going to do everything I can to have all I can. You're liable to find yourself a very poor person. Hey, can I say this to you? I think it's possible to have a great deal of money and be extremely poor. Be extremely poor. But there's people that way. That is their life. They're built. They're selfish. They're greedy. God help us not to be that way. God help us not to be that way. I have said this before, and I've had church members say, "Preacher, you better quit saying that." But it is true. It is true. I am a selfish person, but I know I'm a selfish person. So I work hard so nobody else will know I'm a selfish person, all right? And so I try my best, working hard so it won't be obvious, because I know what it is to be selfish, all right? I know what it is. Now, the only difference between me and maybe some of you is I'll admit it, all right? I know that. I can be selfish, but I have to work at not being selfish. I have to work at not being selfish. I have to work at that deal and say, somebody, come on, preacher, I need some help. Well, go find somebody that'll help you then. No, I got to work at not being selfish and greedy. Hey, it will lead you, all right? It tendeth, the Bible says, to poverty. To poverty. There's another thing. Chapter 13. Chapter 13. Notice what the Bible said. Here's another thing that causes people to be poor. Chapter 13, verse 23, the Bible says, much food is the tillage of the poor, but there is that is destroyed for want of judgment. There is that is destroyed for want of judgment. Hey, listen, bad judgment can make you a poor individual. Bad judgment. I'm not going to ask you how many of you got ready for Y2K. Y'all remember all the hubbub? About 19 years ago now, man, there was everything's going to quit working. Toasters wouldn't toast, all right? Cars were not going to run. All the computers were going to crash. The world wasn't coming to an end, but it might as well, all right? Because everything electronic was giving up the ghost. And, a lot of people really bought into that, and they went and they prepared, and I've got a cousin that bought into it. And I didn't know it, but I happened to be at his house not too long before that, and he's showing me everything. He said, all right, I got this for water storage, and this is beans that we bought ahead of time, and this is wheat. We've got a mill here. We can grind our wheat. I've got got this well dug here, and got a generator, and we're going to store all the gas for all that. I thought, whoa, I'm coming to stay with you, all right? Just in case, And, but nothing happened. Nothing happened. Listen, it's 18 years later. If they did it by themselves, they're still eating those beans, all right? I'm just telling you, they're still eating. Sometimes bad judgment causes you to have poverty. It makes you poor. Now look, everybody's had moments of bad judgment. You bought a car because you fell in love with it, but your head wasn't involved. And it turned out to be a piece of junk. And other people tried to tell you, this is going to be a piece of junk. Oh no, this is my dream car. And you bought it, and now you just dreamed that it would run, because it won't. And it was just bad judgment, all right? We've all made some bad decisions. But hey, the key is you learn from it. Some people don't seem to learn. They just seem to have a terminal case of bad judgment and not just one bad call and not one bad decision, but I mean, they've got a life pattern of those kind of things and that kind of bad judgment. You know, they invested in all the wrong stocks. If I had it to do over again, I would have put my $5 in IBM years ago, all right? But man, I didn't. I didn't do it, and I get calls now, and they, you know, or I see these ads, invest in gold, invest in gold, invest in gold. And I'm thinking, if I had any gold, I'd invested in gold, but I don't have anything, you know. But a lot of people make bad judgments, and it leads to poverty. It leads to that because they just made the bad call, all right? But there's another thing. Maybe you're saying, preacher, so far I'm okay. Good. Chapter 20 of Proverbs, all right? Chapter 20 of Proverbs. This is why some teenagers will never be wealthy. They will always be poor, all right? You ready? Proverbs 20, verse 13. Love not sleep, lest thou come to poverty. Open thine eyes, and thou shalt be satisfied with bread. Look in chapter 23, all right? Chapter 23, verse 21. Chapter 23, verse 21. The Bible said, for the drunkard and the glutton shall come to poverty. Notice, and drowsiness shall clothe a man with rags. What a way to put it, huh? What a way to put it. Drowsiness shall clothe a man with rags. Hey, look, get out of the bed, all right? Just get up. Get up. You know, people love sleep. Love sleep. I've dealt with teenagers, man, at least in some capacity for, 45 years or so. And I'm always amazed at the amount of time they can spend sleeping. Or at least that's what they claim they're doing. We had a girl that graduated from high school this last year from our Christian school, and I remember her telling me, she said, I slept late this weekend. I said, what time did you get up? 1. I said, in the afternoon? Yeah. What time did you go to bed? 10. How do you sleep that long? Good heavens, Get out of the bed. Look, you got kids, don't let your kids get in the habit of sleeping late. Hey, can I say this? If you don't have kids, don't let yourself get in the habit of sleeping late. Learn not to do that, all right? Especially, I see people, parents and kids, they've got kids and they get through the summer and all summer long these kids have been used to staying up late, sleeping late. Man, get up! Get them out of the bed. Don't let them go. Hey, don't let them stay up half the night and then want to sleep half the day. Get them out of the bed. Just go, I don't have anything to do. Talk to me. I can find something for you to do. I'll help you. All right? I'm bored. My brother and I knew better to say that when we were growing up, and we never said that. We'd have repented of that for the rest of our life. Hey, that business of sleeping, bad habits can be awful hard to conquer later in life. Awful difficult to conquer later in life. I'll be honest, I kind of had the opposite deal. When I was in college, I got in the habit of staying up late studying. And you say, why? Well, that was the only time I had to study. So I would stay up late and I'd study and then, get up and go to college, go to work and everything. And boy, it came hard for me later on to learn, you don't really have to stay up to midnight at night. It's okay to go to bed earlier. You don't have to stay up. And those kind of things come back to haunt you, all right? The Bible said the guy that loves sleep, there's a good chance he's going to wind up a poor man. Poor man. Then I think I see this next one pretty often in our day. Look at Proverbs chapter 21. Proverbs chapter 21. Proverbs 21 verse 17, the Bible says, he that loveth pleasure shall be a poor man. He that loveth pleasure shall be a poor man. He that loveth wine and oil shall not be rich. He that loveth pleasure should be a poor man. I believe we see more people like this all the time. All the time. They live for pleasure. Just live for pleasure. Just have a good time. That's all I want to do is just have a good time. You know, I'm not against having a good time. Matter of fact, I sort of enjoy having a good time. And some people, pleasure, it's not necessarily down at the bar drinking, yeah, that's wrong and everything. But hey, sometimes it's simple as just they can't get away from the television set. Can't get away from the television set. Just watching. Just watching. Got to do that, you know. And nowadays you can marathon watch the program you like. Okay? You can marathon. You can watch the whole season in one setting, you know. And now you have to watch the last season, all right? But you can do it in one setting. I hear people talk about doing that, you know, and some people, they just get, hey, I just love pleasure. I just like to have a good time. I think we see more and more. Sometimes it's unjustly put on teenagers. Unjustly put on teenagers with a video game thing. But I can't begin to tell you how many adults I know that can't pull themselves away from those controls, all right? They're not kids, they're adults. But it's all about pleasure. I just want to have a good time. You know what? You find yourself having a good time all the time. Before long, you'll realize, I'm broke. I'm broke. Hey, you can't live for pleasure and not have problems. It'll make you poor, all right? Make you poor. Look in chapter 22. Chapter 22, verse 16. There's something maybe you'd never thought of, but the Bible says, he that oppresseth the poor to increase his riches, and he that giveth to the rich shall surely come to want. You want to oppress the poor. Chapter 28. Now this is the verse we read when we first started. Verse 3, chapter 28. A poor man that oppresseth the poor. You know, that doesn't even sound right. Huh? A poor man that oppresseth the poor. It's possible for a poor man to oppress another poor man, but man, how foolish it is to try to build your wealth by oppressing the poor. Give you troubles. It will lead to poverty. It'll lead to poverty. Go back to chapter 23. We read this verse just a moment ago. Chapter 23, and we kind of glazed over the first part and went to the last, but we're going to park on the first end right now, all right? Proverbs 23, verse 21, for the drunkard and the glutton shall come to poverty. Goodness. How many people have you heard of that were wealthy, but because they were a drunk, they lost it all? Lost it all. Lost it all. The Bible said you can do that as a drunk or a glutton, either one. It can lead to poverty. It will cause you to wind up being poor. Just because of your habits. Notice 8 things. All 8 of them deal with character. Character. Preacher, I just can't get out of the bed. Yeah, you can. Yes, you can. Say, no, you don't understand. No, you're not being truthful. I learned a long time ago, people do what they want to do. I've told teenagers. I've told teenagers, I've stood in their house, I can't get up early enough to be at Sunday school at 10 o'clock. I said, hogwash. I said, if your boyfriend and our girlfriend, whichever was in that particular deal, I said, if they said they were going to be here at 8 o'clock, you'd be ready to go. You would be ready to go. The people that can't get up, the ladies that can't get out of the bed, I just can't get out of bed. Have you noticed they can always be first in line Black Friday? Men, we're not going to leave y'all alone, okay? Men, man, I can't get out of bed. Yep. 2 hours before sunup, you're in a deer blind. Oh, yeah, you can. We do what we want to do. Hey, it's character. It's character. Laziness, all of those things. It's character. It's character. It's our character. you got bad character, man, it can make you to be a poor man. But I want you to notice, you need to mark the poor man. The Bible gives us some warning. Gives us some warning regarding those people who are poor. Now, unfortunately, most people today don't care about the poor, all right? Most people, now there's a lot of words to the opposite effect. A lot of words to the opposite effect. And I'm not going to name names, okay? But guys like Jesse Jackson, all right? And you say, why bring him up? Because they're always harping on the poor. But have you ever, I remember one time years ago, and his charitable giving was listed. Now, I don't remember how much he made. It's some six-figure salary. By the way, I don't care what he makes. But he's always doing something to help the poor. But his charitable giving, I outgave him 4 or 5 times that year. And I don't have a six-figure salary, okay? There's a lot of people talk about the poor and all we're concerned, but I mean there's not many people that really care. But I'll tell you this, God warns us regarding the poor man. I want you to notice what he says to us. And I want to look here at several verses, and then chapter 14, all right? Chapter 14, verse 21. Chapter 14. The Bible says, he that despises his neighbor sinneth, but he that hath mercy on the poor, happy is he. Then look in chapter 19. Chapter 19, verse 17. The Bible says, he that hath pity upon the poor lendeth unto the Lord, and that which he hath given will he pay him again. What a promise. Then chapter 28 and verse 27. Chapter 28 and verse 27. He that giveth unto the poor shall not lack, but he that hideth his eyes shall have many a curse. Hey, you know what the Bible's saying? We're to give to the poor. Give to the poor. Now, I'm going to be honest. I don't believe everybody that claims to be poor is poor. All right? And just, you may get mad at me, but just because somebody's carrying a sign that says I need help doesn't convince me they need my help. All right? It doesn't do it. I try to make sure if I'm going to help somebody, I want to make sure they really need help. Look, you may not realize this, but there are people in this area who rotate among churches wanting a handout because they don't want to work. Now, that's what's called lazy, all right? And you said, well, how do you know that? Well, because we preachers talk to each other. And I've had people come by the second time. The second time. Now, several years in between, but the story was the same. The story was the same. I never have figured this one out. Somebody lives in Grand Prairie and needs to go to Texarkana because their grandmother's sick. And they wind up at First Baptist Church, Haltom City, looking for gas money. Now, in case you're geographically challenged, all right? In case you're geographically challenged, let's say Grand Prairie is, we'll put it this way, about there where Brother Poe's sitting, all right? And they live out close to Grand Prairie. So Grand Prairie's there, and we'll stretch it a little bit. Back there in the penalty box where Brother Blanton is, that is Texarkana. You would think if you were going to Texarkana, you would leave from there and go that way rather than going that way, coming here so you could drive further when you need gas. But I don't know how many times you get that kind of a story, all right? Repeatedly. And I don't want you to judge me and think ill of me. We've helped a ton of people. But I'm awful careful about who I help. But if I find somebody that I realize, man, these folks are hard up, they're having a hard time, I don't mind a bit in the world helping them. Do not mind a bit in the world, especially if I find somebody that's trying. They're trying to do right. And I don't mind helping them. We're supposed to do that. We're supposed to do that. Listen, God didn't give you everything you've got just so you could spend it on you. He didn't give you everything you've got just so you could spend it on you. I don't know about you, but I found I can only drive one car at a time. All right? So I don't need 15 cars. If I was a wealthy individual, I would have a lot of vehicles. A lot of different kind of vehicles. I'd have a 1964 Lincoln Continental. You said, why? Just because. I like them. I had them suicide doors in the back, you know. I just liked them. Okay? I'd have me a nice Metropolitan. All right? I mean, you said, why? That one really no good reason. All right? But I just would. All right? But I don't need all that kind of junk. All right? Don't need that. The truth of the matter is, God didn't give us what we've got so we can just consume it on us. God says, you know what? You ought to help the poor. You ought to help the poor. We're not to oppress them. We're not to mock them. We're to help them. Help them. Now, I'll be honest with you. I'm going to do my best to be sure there's a need before I help. But if I find somebody and I know they've got a need, hey, I'm going to help. I'm going to help. I'm going to do what I can, all right? Going to do what I can. Proverbs chapter 21. Bible makes it real plain, okay? Bible makes it real plain. Verse 3. No, wrong. Verse 13, excuse me. Proverbs 21, verse 13. Whoso stoppeth his ears at the cry of the poor, he also shall cry himself, but shall not be heard. Amen. Hey, the Bible says don't ignore the poor. Might say it this way, ignore the poor at your own peril. All right, your own peril. You be careful. All right, you be careful. Don't ignore the poor. All right. Let me just wind up tonight with what I'm just going to call a few musings about the poor. Listen, sin can cause you to be poor, but it's not a sin to be poor. All right, it's not a sin to be poor. And I would caution you not to look at anybody that's poor and say, they're lazy. Be careful. You don't know what's going on there. You do not know what's going on there. Be careful about deciding, well, they're just lazy, they won't work. And now, they may not. But you be careful because you don't know that. Be careful, all right? Be careful. Hey, you can choose to be poor, and I believe a lot of people today do that. They choose to be poor because we have such a system in our country. There are people that learn to work the system. And they can live pretty good. You know, as far as with stuff, they can get by, you know. And some people choose to be poor. They like it that way. This guy didn't choose to be poor, but it just occurred to me, when we were in Florida, there was a guy in Fort Myers, Florida that everybody in town knew. And he had a name, but he was known as Nature Boy. Now, the truth of the matter is, Nature Boy was wealthy, had a good bit of money, but he lived like a poor man. If you ever saw him, he was barefooted. He's always barefooted. Clothes were tattered. And it was so bad that people would often stop. They'd see him come along, they'd hand him $5. Here, go get something to eat. Well, he could eat. He had plenty, all right? But maybe you need to do that. Go barefooted, wear ragged clothes. People just hand you money, all right? You know, he didn't choose to be poor. He chose to live like he was poor, all right? But you can choose to be poor. Sometimes the poor man is his own worst enemy. Look in chapter 13, would you? Chapter 13 here of Proverbs. Sometimes the poor man is his own worst enemy. Proverbs 13, the Bible says in verse 8, the ransom of a man's life are his riches, but the poor, notice, heareth not rebuke. Heareth not rebuke. Verse 18, poverty and shame shall be to him that, notice, refuseth instruction. Refuseth instruction. You know, you can be your own worst enemy. If you will not take rebuke, if you will not listen to instruction, I learned a long, long time ago, I do not know everything. Man, I learned years ago, I don't know everything. And if somebody comes by with some instruction, I listen. I listen. I may not take it, but I listen to it, and I at least consider it. Somebody rebukes me, I just get mad and punch them. No. Nobody likes rebuke. But you know what's wise? To take it. It's wise to take it. Sometimes a poor man who will not take rebuke and will not listen to instruction, he's his own worst enemy. Hurts him, all right? But I want to say this to you, there's worse things than being poor. All right? Worse things than being poor. Two of them that I want to mention to you that come out of the book of Proverbs tonight. Proverbs chapter 19. The Bible said this is worse than being poor. All right? Proverbs chapter 19, verse 22. The Bible said the desire of man is his kindness, and a poor man is better than a liar. Amen. So I'd rather be poor than be a liar. You're better off. It's all right to be poor, I'd rather be a liar. But you know how many people do lie to get rich? Or to think that it'll make them rich? You be careful. The Bible said you're better off being poor than you are being a liar. Just the thought, all right? Proverbs chapter 28, verse 6. Proverbs chapter 28, verse 6. The Bible said, blessed is the poor that walketh in his uprightness, than he that is perverse in his ways, though he be rich. Hey, it's better to be poor than to be a perverse individual. Better to be poor. Listen, God help us. You know, sometimes I think we're convinced today the worst thing that could happen to you is you be poor. No, not necessarily. There's a lot of worse things that could happen. A lot of things. Let me say this to you. You know, if you're poor, you can take some steps to change the situation. You can take some steps to change the situation. We were knocking on doors last night. My wife and I, on a rare occasion, were visiting together. We knocked on the door of this young man. This young man came to the door, and he was very willing to talk. And he said, well, you know, he said, I've visited several churches, and he said, I just feel like they didn't want me. And y'all got to understand, all right? When I'm knocking on the door, I want somebody to be loosened up when I talk to them. So, you know, when we went up to the door, the garage door was open. And there was a nice boat sitting in the garage. So when he came to the door, I said, howdy, how you doing? I said, I'm just in the neighborhood looking for a boat I can steal. And I'm trying to check out your security system, all right? And, you know, when you say that to people, they really don't know what to say, all right? And so when he begins to say, you know, I did finally tell him, no, I'm looking for a car, not a boat. When I really told him, look, we're First Baptist Church, I'm the pastor of the church, and he said that, you know, people don't want him. I said, we don't want you either. No, I said, look, I pointed that tract that was in his hand. I said, that church right there, where that tract's from, those people want you. We want you. We want you to come. And finally, he got down to this point, and I think this is the thing that bothered him. He said, I think the only thing they're interested in is my money. My money. Hey, listen. Your money can sure keep you away from God, but your money will not buy you anything from God, all right? But if you're poor, you can take some steps to change your situation. Hey, you know, you can shape up. You say, what do you mean? Well, do the right thing. Make sure you aren't making yourself poor because you got poor character. All right? Be honest with yourself. The most difficult person to be honest with is yourself. I mean, if you're lazy, who wants to look in the mirror and say, man, you're lazy? We don't want to believe that. We don't want to say that. But you know, you just shape up. You get out there, you do what you need to do, you put in the effort you need to put in to get a job. You say, well, I can't do a lot of things. Great, find something you can do. There's got to be something you can do. We were driving back yesterday from the funeral for Mrs. Smith over in Dallas, and we're coming back across, and my wife and I, we were talking about all these places that were there. She said, when I used to have to drive here to work for a short span of time, said none of this was here. This was all empty and open. And we were driving along, and I began to notice these buildings, entire buildings devoted to some company. And I thought, man, can you imagine how many people are employed in that one building? Look, there's something you can do that you can make money, all right? There's something you can do. Get out there, get a job, and then give God His due and trust Him to provide for your needs. Trust Him. But don't, some people, they start at the last thing I just said. I'm trusting the Lord. So far, He hasn't had anybody call me and offer me a position. But I'm trusting Him. Now look, you got to do a little bit, all right? You got to put a little bit of effort in there. But I believe this. I don't believe you have to stay poor if you are poor. Don't believe you have to. Now, I'm not saying you'll be rich. I'm not saying that. And I'm not saying play the lottery, all right? That's a good way to stay poor, all right? Don't do that. But just take some Bible principles, Put some effort into it. Pray about it. Give God His due. Then you trust Him. You trust Him. I think He'll do great things for you. But never let us forget that God says to you and I that we're to help the poor. Right? We're to help the poor. I have found an amazing number of people that come looking for help need to change their lifestyle. It's not anything else but that. They need to change their lifestyle. Hey, rich or poor, where do you sit? I'm going to end the message tonight. I'll never forget hearing this. Brother Roloff, Lester Roloff, was when he was having the trouble with the state over his homes for kids in the state of Texas. Every kind of lie in the world was told about him. But one of the things was told was that he was really a rich man. And this reporter asked him, and Brother Roloff said, well, I am. He said, I am a rich man, but I'm temporarily separated from my assets. So what do you mean, preacher? Well, his assets were in heaven, right? His assets were in heaven. The Bible tells us, lay not up for yourself riches on this earth, where moth and rust doth corrupt, thieves break through and steal. But lay up for yourself treasures in heaven. No moth and rust to corrupt there, and no thief is going to be there. God to help us to, not worry so much about being rich, but just letting God help us with what we do have, that we are wise in what we do with it, and not to consume it just on ourselves. Heavenly Father, help us tonight. Lord, we just look through the Bible and the book of Proverbs. And Lord, maybe sometimes it seems like we're just jumping around, but Lord, help us to see the truth of this business of the poor man. Oftentimes, it is the fault of an individual because of their character. But Lord, even then, you've told us we're to help the poor. And Lord, we need to realize that. But Lord, I pray you'd help us to realize that we don't have to be poor. We can put some effort in, we can work, we can try, and we can then ask for your help, turn it over to you, and you'll help us. Lord, help us to be what we ought to be. Help us learn how to handle that money, that wealth, that riches that you give us. We'll do what's right with it. First in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. God bless you. Good to have you tonight. I hope you'll be here Sunday.